not the big one, not yet. Okay, so we just had a little segue talking about the Oso landslide, and we're back on basic editing for price. Or not. Let's see, are you going to move? Maybe. Oh, wow. Okay. So we're going to talk about, she's going to have you work through vector editing, and this is what we did with the farm editing. You actually created features, but editing can be used to update features, make them more accurate, change them, add a new road if you've had some new buildings. A lot of taxation is splitting land parcels, and also just to update the attribute information. So there's a lot that goes into editing data, and so Price is going to have you go through several different aspects of that. One of the things that was fairly new a couple years ago was the idea that there is an ARC scan that can digitize a map. So you can put a paper map in it, and it will kind of automatically create lines, points, and polygons that are pretty good, but you still have to go back in then and have that map georeferenced and then edit those lines, points, and polygons. So it saves a whole lot of work. So you can take a line drawing of a tax document, scan it, and create lines with that. So kind of a cool time saver. Price says one of the benefits to ArcGIS is that the program will reproject on the fly for you, and so that editing in different coordinates is not a huge problem, but it's a really good idea if you can edit with your data in the same projection. Okay, so if I'm using like the streamed image, the imagery from Esri, which is, I think, projection, it's a world projection, Mercator auxiliary. So that's what I set my geodatabase and my feature data set to, so that the data I'm working with is in that projection. And then when I'm done, I can reproject it into another projection that I want. So it kind of gives me some duplication. And that may not be critically important, but it's just kind of a good practice. And that's the recommendation from Esri documentation, not particularly from Price. If you have a CAD drawing, it cannot be edited in ArcGIS. You need to convert it. And it's pretty easy to take a CAD drawing and export it as a shapefile, and then you can edit it, which works really well. And the old files that are called coverages cannot be edited either. You have to convert those to a shapefile or a feature class in order to edit them, unless you have what we have, which is ArcInfo. And so we have the higher level, and as students you have the higher level application, so you can use ArcInfo for that. Okay. One of the things that she talks about a little bit that she would get into in the second chapter is this idea of topology. And topology are the rules that keep lines concurrent, so that you don't have gaps between your lines. If you have tax lots, there isn't a gap between a tax lot. There's another tax lot, right? So if you were to change my property line and move it in a little, then the other person's property line should extend, right? If we've changed that. If not, then your topology has been broken and you get gaps. Well, shapefiles don't have built-in topology. So several years ago, and I may have told you this, I had I had a map of Oregon with all the counties, and I accidentally bumped, where is Astoria? Is that Clatsop County? Clatsop County. I accidentally bumped Clatsop County when I was editing, and I moved it kind of as an island. And you didn't notice it until you zoomed way in and you thought, oh my God, those, you know, those lines. Now, if the topology had been inherent, as I moved Clapset out into the ocean, the other counties would have enlarged and maintained that. I guess luckily it didn't, or I might not have ever noticed that so you may still, they're still running around places that, that Oregon shape that that I corrupted. Okay. Really? Am I there? La, la, la. There we go. Okay. So this idea of topology really helps maintain that relationship, right? So there's things called topology rules that when you set up your data, you say that things like, okay, well, I'm going to digitize a bunch of polygons, and one of my rules is that my polygons cannot overlap, all right? And my lines have to intersect. Like if I'm building road topology, I want my crossroads to intersect, right? I don't want them to overshoot or have this dangle at the end. So I can set up all those rules so that when I start to digitize, I can run the topology check and it will find all those places where my data is inaccurate, and then there are ways to fix that. So even though we may not work with topology today, it's good to kind of know what they are. And so here's some of the ideas. You don't want to have those overlaps. If you do that, your areas aren't going to be correct. If I want to do a network analysis, and this is something that you'll find when you work with the networks, if I want this road to be able to drive and turn on this road, these things have to intersect. So that this green road has to have a vertex right here where that vertex is exactly on top of it. If I've done this, that's just a dead-end road, right? I can't do that. Same with a river, right? If I'm digitizing streams and I have a tributary coming into a main stream, if those don't actually connect, then my stream flow model is going to stop. It's not going to move on. They do this in electrical wiring. They'll do networks and topology. They'll do that in irrigation and pipes and city utilities. They'll have topology rules with their pipes and things like that. Yeah.
So the overshooting is just as bad as no shooting because
that's right, right. And you know, maybe this is a dead end of a pipe, but maybe not, right? Yeah. So you have to kind of do, here's one that just crosses over, it doesn't intersect. Here is, so let's say I'm digitizing and I put a dot there. Well, it's called a pseudo node because it doesn't really need one there, but that happens. Okay. So when we work with digitizing, we're going to think about, you know, the snapping. I think we did some snapping a little bit in the farm. You can snap the vertices, you can snap just the edges or the sides or all of it. You can also set that snapping tolerance, okay? And that's that point where your mouse is going to jump. So sometimes the snapping, I'm not looking at you, I was looking at, why is the printer flashing? It's caught my attention. Sometimes I need to set that snapping tolerance to a lot less because I want to get really close to something and my mouse is snapping. The other way to fix that also is just to zoom in or out, and it changes that snapping tolerance. Okay. All right. So she sets up some feature templates. I've not used those, but she'll talk about that in the tutorial about how you can, let's say ahead of time, I know that I'm going to map certain kinds of grassy areas and then some sidewalks. I can set up templates ahead of that so that they have those symbology already. Okay, so she'll talk about that a little bit. When you're editing, you have to start an editing session, and then you want to click save before you click stop or end. Often ArcGIS will prompt you and say, oh, do you want to save these? But sometimes it doesn't. It'll just stop them and not save them. And it's not consistent, so I'm not sure when may do that. So you can undo as long as you haven't saved it. And what was the key command? Somebody found a great key command. Control Q was the undo. Control Z was the undo in Esri. And also you can do the back arrow when you're editing, and that will do some of that stuff. The other thing that we've done a little bit of is to copy and paste features from one feature class to the other feature class as long as they're the same geometry. So let's say I've got a bunch of points that somebody went out and collected of hydrants, and I have a feature class of hydrants, and then someone else brought in the Springfield hydrants. I can copy their hydrants and paste them into the other hydrant file, so now I have one consolidated hydrant area. So we could have done that with your land use parcels. We could have taken all of those, copied and pasted them into one, and it would have, made that one file. Okay. All right. She goes over some editing that is very precise, right? So let's say you're copying legal description, and that's the coordinated geometry. So tax lots are often in a legal description. And I know that the line is 72 feet long, and I know that where the line starts, and I know the angle that the line takes. So I can enter all of that in to ArcGIS, and it will create that line for me, rather than just tracing. So sometimes people working in the tax department, they took the old tax lot descriptions and created all of the lines just from entering the data and not tracing anything, right? So you can do both of that. Where'd you find? Angle. How do you spell angle? A-N-G-L-E. Dang on it. Thank you. Well done. Nathan gets a point. But it was a very sweet point. Okay. All right. So one of the things with Kogo editing is make sure you really pay attention to the directions, because they're not how we think about angles from 0 to 360. They're talking about north of 0, south of 0, and then south of east and west of due south. And so the angle units that she talks about in the book are not what I would use just to do compass directions. Okay, so they're a little bit different. A lot more about topology. I must have gotten really involved in topology rules. So there's just all kinds of ways that you can enforce that topology. And you can get very, very specific in that. She's going to have you, I need to owe you guys a penny every time I said That was one of the comments from my online human geography class. Is that I take up somebody said she could make these lectures a lot shorter than 30 minutes if she took out all the ums. Okay. It's probably true. It's good feedback. It's good feedback. But it was a Survey Monkey, so I have no idea who said that anyway. Okay, so, well, let's see, where was I? She's going to have you work through complex polygons. So how do you split a polygon? How do you join it? How do you cut a line in half? And then we did a little bit, did I say darn it. We did a little bit of that with the island in the farm, right, by being able to clip. And so sometimes that just becomes a strategy. So let's say I've digitized everything and I find this one little section of, I think in here it's a geology section, one little stupid thin line of some kind of granite that I forgot to digitize. And trying to match all those edges is going to be a nightmare. So I could make a really big stupid square and clip it to the existing geology and just keep that overlapping center. So she goes through a lot of little tricks with how to clip. Okay. And so this was one of her examples. And so really thinking about a strategy. So here's her strategy. She did kind of digitized all of the large areas. Then she cut that polygon tool to cut out something she didn't want. Then she created number 7. So you can take a look at that, and I think she might even have this in the text. But she had a whole plan for how to attack getting the easy pieces first. And then, of course, that autocomplete tool is a lifesaver. So one of the things with editing, in order to keep topology, even if I haven't officially built topology, is to try to use the merge, the union, the intersect, and different tools that will help combine data. So I'm going to pause this a second and pull up ArcGIS. Maybe I'm going to, there it is. Okay. And let's see, anybody know what our latitude is? Good. Oh, wait. Let's zoom to that. There we go. Yeah, Salem's 45. All right, so let's go in here. Really? I'm going to find some buildings over here. All right. Oh, wait, where's Lane? That's where I want. Aha. Okay. I'm south of this. This is Springfield, right? Ooh. Where is that? Is that the highway? Oh, there we are. Wait. Woohoo! All right. So, all right. So one of the things that is really helpful is that if you digitize a building, these corners here are not square in the image, but we know they're probably square in real life, right? So one of the things you want to do is make sure that all of your buildings, if you do buildings, are square. I don't know that you're, oh, you are going to do buildings. So I'm going to go to the desktop real quick if I can find it. Do I have to add it? Of course I do. Okay. I'm going to make a shapefile here. And it's going to be a polygon. And I want to use the same projection that this map is in. And I'm pretty sure it's the world Mercator Auxiliary. Okay, cool. All right. There it is. Okay. So, and I could double check that. I wonder if it'll tell me here. I think I'm right. So slow. Apparently not. Okay. Wow. You'd think it would tell you the projection, right? Okay, well, I'm going to assume that's what Google Earth uses, so I'm just going to assume that's the projection. So one of the things that's really helpful is to be able to digitize if things are squared up, and Lane is at a really funny angle. So in here, I can go into, I don't know if it's advanced editing. Let me see if I can find that. Data frame tools, there it is. And I'm going to rotate this 2 degrees. Whoop, the wrong way. All right, minus 2 degrees. I'm going to go minus 4 degrees. What do you think? Minus 6? Nope. All right, we're jumping to, let's do 9 in between you two. Ooh, that looks pretty. That looks pretty good. Now, I can check this. Let's see, where's my longest toolbar? I think, is this one? I'm going to drag that, oh, here it is. I'm going to drag that toolbar down on my map. Okay, I got to go. I'm going to go with the 10. That's pretty good. So I've got, for this section now, I've got a building that's straight. It's going to be a little easier for me to digitize. So if I start editing, and I'm going to edit my buildings, and I'm not going to choose the polygon, I'm going to actually choose the rectangle. And if I click here and here, I can line that up and line that up. I can line this up and this up. And then with the three of them, I can merge them into one. And so I've got square corners. I didn't have to try to click. I have fewer vertices if I need to edit. And it makes life so much easier. So I can do this one. Oh, that didn't work. So let me do this long edge first. There we go. And then I can join that. So for building footprints, where's my merge? That does a pretty good job of keeping my corners square. And it's not going to be exact because my air photos or my imagery often has a bit of an angle and a distortion and shadows. But this is about as good as you're going to get for this level of digitizing. Okay, so you just assume that the corners are square, and you go with that, making your building. So that's one of the hints that I don't think she talks about in the editing, which I think is really beneficial.